Town of Sparta budget meeting. Glad everybody could make it. It was continued from the last meeting, which I wasn't here. I'd like to, first of all, I'd like to everybody would stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Any addition or changes in the agenda? Anyone?
I make a motion to approve if there's change.
Motion to approval.
I'll second.
Have a second, all in favor? Follow. If any other business should be added to the agenda at this time. Public comment agenda items. Citizens are encouraged to comment at this time on any item specifically listed as on this meeting agenda. The comment time is limited to 3 minutes. Anyone? Like to comment? Not, we'll go on. Rezoning request. Partial 3070-57-2753.54 acre tract. Located off of North Carolina 18 South and known as the Old Kelly Motel property. This property is currently zoned neighborhood business and the request to change to residential multifamily. You want to speak to that also?
Yes, sir. At this point in time, we just need council to initiate a motion to send this to the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, got a second? Any discussion? All in favor? I will. Send to the planning board. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of a vendor for the water meter project.
So council, at our last meeting, I spoke to the other 3 council members. We discussed the AMI system, or AMR system, automatic meter reading. We discussed the need to move forward with making a decision. We reached out to Zenner, which I sent out an email, and, we have yet to hear back from them after that. And they were specifically told in that meeting that we needed that meeting, the recording for the meeting. They said, we'll get the recording to you as soon as the meeting's over with. We'll also get you a propagation study. We have yet to receive a propagation study or recording from the meeting. This is the company that's based out of Texas, Dallas, Texas. And they have been a little bit difficult at times to reach out. They were also the ones that we had some difficulty trying to get them to give us information. I reached out to one of their, they were the lower bids, and that's the one that we asked if they could come back for a second meeting. We did reach out to a couple of their clients, and only one of them ever answered any phone calls. And they said that while the meter was good, they actually were on the old mesh system. They weren't sending us a mesh system, they were sending us a different system. And the client actually said the only issue that they've had in the past is on occasion they've had difficulty making contact with their customer representatives, which is what we've run into, which we don't get a response from them. The Ferguson meter company, we kind of threw that one out because the cost of that one was extremely expensive. it was over $1 million for theirs. And while it was a great system, it allows for integrated monitoring throughout throughout our infrastructure. It wasn't, we cannot use the money that we're gonna be utilizing for monitoring capabilities specific. So, excuse me. So, we would have to pick and choose which ones had the monitoring capabilities, cause it still had to be tied to sewer. And again, that was the vendor who was a one-time use meter, and after that meter died, the batteries died on it, that meter was obsolete, you couldn't do anything to fix it. So it leaves us with Consolidated Pipe, which is our in-between vendor. Their total price, after taxes and including labor, is $904,000. And I had this, or $914,000. I just got off the phone with that vendor a few minutes ago, and I asked them to email me a breakdown for any car that the installation process would charge. And they are willing to work with us on the installation, allowing our crews to do X amount, which would take off the cost. The price itself, now the 2-inch meters and the 6-inch meters, I'm gonna let them install themselves. If that's who we will go with, I would let them do those themselves, just because those are larger commercial meters. It would require more pre-planning and more time to do. And that averages out, that 31 meters, that averages out to $10,000 for them to swap out those 31 meters. The residential ones is 93 or 96,000, and that's the ones they're gonna work with us and allow us to install to be cost effective. With some of the problematic meters that we know we've had some issues with in the past. So at the end of the day, after we reimburse our back taxes and we look at a couple of different items, we're looking at less than $900,000, possibly less than $800,000 for the automated system on the water meter. So we do have to get this money encumbered and spent before December of this year, or else we'll have to return the money back to legislation and law. So at this point in time, we've looked, the staff at the town hall feels the Consolidated Pipe would be the better choice out of all three. And just what I did tell the other council members the other day is, the other municipalities around us does have Ferguson, which is the Alpros. That's a more expensive one, but they all have the drive-by system. They don't have the AMI system. Whereas we're looking at the fully integrated AMI system, where we get the continuous information. The other thing with Consolidated Pipe was their yearly recurring costs. I did have that conversation with them, asked them how often does that increase and what's the percentage that it increases. They haven't had an increase in several years, and they said they normally don't try to increase the yearly cost itself, but normally doesn't exceed 2 to 3% cost increase, and they don't foresee another increase within the next 5 years. But if it did increase, the yearly cost should not be more than 5 or 3%. That's what they have reported for us. Whereas the Ferguson has a guaranteed, I think it was a 3%, is that right, Andy? Guaranteed 3% increase every year, and their cost was already higher than everybody else's cost. And that was just for us, not including the customer portal. The customer portal with Consolidated Pipe has no yearly cost to it. It's a one-time setup fee, which we could eliminate this year, which would save us a little bit over $11,000. If we eliminate that this year, then we brought it back in and re-implemented at the next year and then full time.
Now, where's this boat y'all, is this?
This one is the closest one. This one is out of Greensboro. Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And Ferguson was
Virginia-based.
a Virginia-based company, and then the Zimmer was out of Dallas.
And their software was one that we liked, wasn't it, the Consolidated?
Consolidated was one that we
That
liked.
that was a little simpler to use and had a lot of information, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
The recommendation is go with this.
The town staff feels that consolidated pipe would be our better option. It is a brass, meter with an exchangeable top to it. So if the battery on it died, you can unscrew that and your actual working components inside of it are still gonna be working. It is a 10-10 warranty on it, meaning it's a 10-year full replacement and a 10-year prorated replacement. And it will tell you that once you get to a certain point in that prorated warranty, you're better off to just replace it with the entire meter itself.
Was Consolidated the one that all the meter, lids had to be, bored and they set above the meter? Or were they the ones that were in the meter and then you just bored and put the antenna above on the ones that were a little harder to communicate with?
It was in the meter and the ones that, if they were difficult to communicate, you would have to bring it in. So the price that we had them send to us with the $904,000, well, $914,000, included at least 30 meters that were gonna have an antenna on them. And we had 20-some meters that were having issues picking up with the initial propagation study. So if we brought those up with an antenna, it should fix the problem itself.
I make a motion to approve the contract, do the contract Consolidated to do these meters and get started.
I'll second.
Got a motion and got a second, any discussion? I'd like to discuss about it just a little bit. I was wondering, what kind of cost savings is this gonna be for the town over a period of time? We figured that out.
So over time, you're looking at saving, fuel and man hours on meter reads, and eventually you'll be able to do more preventative maintenance. Whereas right now, Monday, Tuesday, the first 3 weeks of the month are utilized for meter reading itself. And if you get a rainy day like today, you may have to push some of those back another day and do Wednesday, which is ultimately what our crews are doing today. They end up having to push a couple of them back. And then you have rereads that have to be done as well. The other aspect of it is that you remove the human error out of the equation. We have ran into some issues where they have gone back and they've read the meter, and a picture was requested for that meter itself, and the picture came back, and the numbers were not consistent with what had been reported in the past, meaning that there was a long history of unaccounted for usage in that specific meter itself.
We're also gonna save some money on accuracy of meter readings and accuracy of the meters themselves.
Yes, so the accuracy is gonna be the big thing. These are all brand new meters that are gonna be coming in, so they're not gonna be used meters. It will put a bit of there will be some customers who will have a bit of a hurt in their pocket because they've had meters that have been in the ground for years. So these new meters are actually gonna pick up better than the ones that they currently have, so they may see a spike in their usage as well.
But these also, you got a chance to save a lot of water also, don't we, with these meters? Like leaks and stuff, didn't you say that they bring, that
Yeah.
would come up?
So the AMI system, which is better than the drive-by system. The drive-by system is only gonna pick it up when you read it, when you drive by and read it. Whereas the automated system itself, it'll automatically send information to the town. And our staff, when they come in the morning, our staff is gonna be able to see and get a notification that there's a high usage at a specific location. And they can call that property owner and say, we're showing a high usage at your property, you may have a leak. We can send someone to cut it off at that point in time, or they may say, well, I I left my water hose running so I can fill my pool, that's what it's allowing. So it will allow us, by going to the fully automatic system, to help our customers better detect when they are having this big, increase, spike in their usage.
Well, it sounds like a good update there for the town. Like I say, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? It's a 5-0. Go for it. Item number 6, purchase order for police department equipment.
So council, if you, and, Chief Terry is down here, if you have any questions, we can. We discussed the purchase of, firearms, 10 firearms, and 3 radios that, at our last meeting, we tabled it to this meeting. And, we've gone back and looked at the money that the police department still has in their current budget. It has funds in there to replace their, 10 firearms. There were 3 quotes that were sent out. One of those quotes was included everything, and the price was, a little bit shy of $2,500. That included, 10 holsters, 10 on-duty holsters, 10 off-duty holsters, a red dot, a flashlight, and then 10 of the Glock 9mm guns. And the police department said that they wanted those weapons, have had some issues with those, with the ones that they have. That was for, whose quote was that? Craig's Firearm. And then the other 2 quotes were set to, be more of they would sell you the gun. One of them would sell you the guns and give you a percentage amount for those guns if you traded in 6 of them, but then you still have to turn back around and purchase the holster separate, and you still have to purchase the red dot and the flashlight separate from the quote itself. At this point in time, I'll let Lloyd explain to you which one they prefer, as that's gonna be for his department, because we're gonna step up to the podium.
Good evening. I'll take questions if I can answer. If I don't, I know Mr. Green, I could probably answer better than me. I'll just let you say.
The only thing I was gonna ask is whichever quote we go with, I don't think we need to do the trade-in process. I think that you can, get more out of them than that.
Agreed, because Glock was only giving us, you looked, I think you had to pack 250, 230. And there, we could do better locally with that. I feel like.
That's a concern I had too when we brought it up, I need to get more there.
Right, absolutely. So, like the town manager said, we've saved quite a bit of money being short-staffed this budget cycle, and, that's the reason we're asking for these items. Handguns are 10 years old plus, they really need to be looked at, some of them, just the functionality is probably lacking for officer safety. These are the aim point, the red dot sights. That's what we'll have on these. Of course, you have to buy new holsters. That's why the holsters, they're not universal, so there has to be a new holster for it. They're a good weapon. We'll be waiting a little bit of time to get them because it's the model 47. I believe that's right. I don't have it in front of me, but we Glock 47. This is a 9mm. What we're carrying now is 40 Glock 40 calibers. Ammunition will be a little bit cheaper too. We start buying ammo and things, so. But it's time to replace some of these handguns we've got. And then, speaking to that, then the 3 radios, when we got the Durangos and the 3 Chargers, we got the 6 vehicles from Euclid. The 3 Chargers have no mobile radios. Officers only have a walkie-talkie, the 800 Viper walkie-talkie. So, the Durangos and some of our older cars have a VHF radio that the county still monitors and we can still talk. The goal here is to buy 3 radios for the Chargers, because officers that drive those don't even have a all they got's a walkie. If it's down, they have no communication. So just for officer safety purposes, we'll put three, the new Viper 800 radios in those cars. And what we're headed toward, and I gotta go back to and look at this afternoon, is there's a grant available that maybe we can purchase some of this grant if we can get this grant awarded to us to change over to 800 Viper radio system. The county's already that way. I know the fire rescue is trying to get there, so there's no use in buying mobile, VHF mobile radios, because it's gonna be obsolete in a few years. And then the other was the tasers, I think, and, Mr. Butron,
Those are in the budget.
okay. But anyway, that was probably our top three items: handguns, the radios. There's three radios for those cars that do not have them, and then the tasers, which our equipment was getting old and worn and obsolete for some of the tasers.
What happens to this money if you don't spend it?
That's a good question, Mr. Evans.
Where does it, I mean,
I
you
don't
said
know.
from last year, but can it go over into the next budget? Maybe?
That's to the fund balance.
We'll go
It
back
goes
to
back
general.
in the fund balance.
Fund balance, okay. I didn't want to say general because I didn't know if I was speaking correctly.
And council, just to kind of answer on that, when he came up to me and he asked me on the options to purchase these items, we looked at their current budget, their expenditures, their projected expenditures for the end of the year until July. We're not gonna have to move any money out of any other, department to be able to fund the firearms and the three radios. Those will be funded with their current budget that they have at this point in time. The tasers are in the budget. We went back, we revisited, and Chief Terry was with me whenever we had this conversation. We have gone back, and of course, that's part of the budget, so we can discuss those, as we get to that aspect, but those have been put into the budget at a lower quantity, like you asked for, and the base price versus the added price. So it dropped significantly from, nearly $15,000 a year to $6,045 a year for the next 5 years. But those we can discuss when we get to the budget. This purchase order would only apply to 3 the Viper radios for the cars and 10 firearms for the officers.
And your recommendation is the Craigs? Is that correct?
It's a one-stop. It's
Okay.
because of that site that the officers wanted. Glock's the only one that, it's made specifically for Glock, and it won't be available to other people, my understanding, for a little time before it goes out to the retail market. So,
And that's us keeping the current.
and that's correct. They did not give us a trade-in value on that.
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
I do have one thing for Officer Terry. I know, I'd like to applaud your officers for their response this morning, for the power company on the outage there in town. They rolled out there really quick. It was an emergency kind of situation, and they blocked off Highway 18 and rerouted all of the traffic around it pretty seamlessly. And that's a pretty heavily traveled road during the middle of the day, and I just wanted to say that they did a great job.
Thank you for recognizing that. The officers we have are good officers. They care about what they do. I can't say that enough. And they care about this town, this community, this county, to try to make people, to ensure people are safe as they can be. That's our goal, is to get compliance from people when they're driving, and everybody be safe and go home that way. And your guys did a great job too. I was out there when the first explosion, but the flash went off, and I was like, I may be too close to this right now. So, but anyway, anytime.
When the people that know what they're doing start running, it's probably a good time.
When I saw saw him look up after I was blind and could see again, I was like, I need to be just a little too close to him. Anyway, thank y'all, have a good night.
Fine,
Thank you.
fine.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all and Blue Ridge Electric too, because my power was back on in 30 minutes. I
Yeah.
thought y'all done a great
I know
job.
it's worth it.
I thought about you.
Appreciate it.
Sound like I missed a little excitement.
Yeah, I pulled out, I seen the fireworks going.
Number 7 there, we got a request to use, from the hospital, to use Krause Park on, let's see, what date is that? October the 18th, from 8 to 2. And they filled out a request for this. And last year, they paid $200 or $150, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, so this is just a request from them to utilize the park for their annual, 5K run and walkathon that they do. The front office staff put the note that last year they did pay $150, to utilize the park. At this point in time, I spoke to Mr. Edwards, he understands the cost may be the same or may be different. He just wants to go ahead and reserve this before somebody else utilizes the park, on that day for any other event. So we can, at this point, we're just gonna take a motion to reserve this pending any, changes to the fee schedule itself. We will go ahead and put them on the books for that day.
I'll make a motion that we reserve the park for them for that day.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Wow. Okay, now we're getting down to the appropriations presentation. First one on the list is Miss Debbie.
Mayor Pro Tem, before we start calling them out there, in your packet, those are requests made to us, for the appropriations that the town of Sparta will be, allocating versus what the county has currently allocated to these organizations. Now, there are some changes, in the proposed budget that occurred. As of Friday, this was what was, published, or what we had available. Correction, as of Wednesday, this was what was available to us. I know there's, the current online version, just to kind of point out, the Chamber of Commerce, the proposed county appropriation, I think that's $38,000, not $10,000 anymore. So these are just so that you can ask questions or formulate questions if you wanted to with them, when comparing appropriations from us to the county itself. We are gonna limit each individual for 15 minutes. We'll go ahead and just point out that we don't necessarily have to make a decision right now. We can discuss this, send it back to the budget, or council can make their recommendations and we can make any changes to it if you want to. You don't have to make a decision today on that. The objective though is that if any changes we make that would significantly change anything else, and we discuss it, so that we can get this published on our website tomorrow and in the newspaper as well for the next one. What we don't want to do is interact in a very extended, long dialogue. And I'll start a timer over here, and we'll be at 15 minutes per each individual. So they can request a review of their appropriations, or they can, just express their appreciation for the money that was given to them, or you can ask questions if you have any questions that you want to ask them. So with that said, we'll start with the library.
Allegheny County Library, Debbie Brewer.
Joan Sheriff, our director, go first, and then I'll follow up with a bit. Okay, this will not take long at all, but we just really wanted to thank you for your appropriation. Again, this here to support the Allegheny Library on behalf of the Northwestern Regional Library and of course the Allegheny Library. We particularly appreciate you all doing it because again, we get money from the state. And if our overall money goes below what it did before, we get reductions too. So, that means so much, and also your addition of, with the requested is very valuable. We appreciate your support for the library so much. You know, of course, Debbie and all the great staff that works there and what a resource it is to the whole community. Some of the purposes of the increase, in the request this year was to support the staff. And as we all know, we try to, not get too far behind on the increases in cost of living. And it's been tough for everybody these last couple of years. But we know if we wait a long time, it's really hard, and then it's hard to get people to work and people. So we really appreciate that. We try to get a little bit of time. So that was part of the request. And also, of course, that's all the benefits too. You all know how that works. And then our insurance, that we do have insurance, not county employees, unfortunately, I'm sure. But we have pretty good insurance through the Northwestern Regional Library, since all the library staff are considered employees of the Northwestern Regional Library that is considered local government. So we have lots of streams of funding. Certainly the county also increased their funding this year to help cover these items. And the last thing was some increased funding for Hoopla. And some of you may know that is the streaming services for ebooks and audiobooks and movies and much more. So popular all over the region, because we know a lot of people are doing a lot online. So, Millie, we do try to, and all of you, try to keep up with developments as they go, and we appreciate the staff keeping everything current. So those are requests, but we appreciate your support so much. And now the good part, about Allegheny Library.
I just want to thank you all so much for your continued support. It means a lot to all of us who work and to a lot of people who use the library in this county. But I have laid a packet in front of you and has our upcoming flyers of events we've got coming up. If you have little people in your life, they will want to see some of the events. But I just wanted to bring those in and let you see. So,
You've got a pretty busy schedule here.
that's just a little bit. We're in the process of planning right now, so there'll be a lot more, but you have our summer reading flyers in front of you and a couple of other things, so.
And if you haven't had a chance to go by during summer reading program, it's such a fun time, not only for kids, for adults too, so please see it.
So thank you all so much, and if there's any questions or anything, otherwise we're gonna sit it out. Joan's got a meeting, and I need to make a quick phone call, so.
Thank you, Lynn.
Any questions? Thank you, Dave.
Thank you all so much.
Next is Chamber of Commerce, Allegheny County Chamber of Commerce, flyer. Speak to that.
I don't know if you heard Jose's comment that the county's gonna increase our budget, but over the last 3 years, they've cut our budget by a third each year. And last year, we only received 10,000. 4 years ago, we were getting $50,000 a year from the county. So I met with several county folks this year, and they indicated an interest in increasing our allotment, our appropriation. And honestly, I'm glad they're doing that. The town has actually carried our budget in a lot of ways the last few years, and we were grateful for that. Last month, I came to one of your all's budget meetings, kind of sitting back quietly and listening to what you were doing, and realized what you were up against. And I told the board at that time, after that meeting, that I wouldn't dispute a cut in our budget from the town. And so when you all cut our budget, we're fine with that, especially with the county finally stepping back up and helping, because certainly they receive benefit from the chamber as well. I mean, you have our budget, you have our benefits to the community, and you can see the things that we do. We never want to be a drain on the people of this community or of this county. We feel like we should be an income generator, not an expense for the county. And although a lot of times it looks like we're just taking money, I think if you look at the numbers of when we market, when we promote, when we help launch events and things like that, that actually makes money for the community. Pretty significant money at times. So again, we're grateful for that. The only thing that I do want to, in a way, challenge, and I'm challenging this based on lack of full information, so forgive me for that in advance. But, based on a meeting that I had with Jose and Mike was there, it looks like the fee structure for the police department for our Mountain Heritage Festival, and it impacts other things that go on downtown as well, is gonna be a little bbit cost prohibitive. We have a budget of about 16,000, just a hair over 16,000 for the Mountain Heritage Festival each year. And of course, costs continue to go up, like Scotch Rental is no longer gonna be doing tents. So we're either gonna have to find someone well away from here that will rent us tents or purchase tents. So that's gonna increase the cost a little bit. So our budget, within the budget that we presented to you, is a $16,000 expenses, and we made about $18,000 in income last year. A big part of that income was actually something that was new. We introduced a raffle, and that put us over the top, kept us from losing money on the festival. Well, this year, if we have 6 to 7 officers, and that's what Chief has said, it would be the minimum to staff our festival at 13 to 14 hours. We're looking at anywhere from $2,500 to $3,200 in expense just for the police department. Now, we understand you all will incur costs, those are real costs, but we're not sure that we should have to pay for the entire cost. We cannot have a police officer on duty if there wasn't a festival. And so I guess what we're looking for is that maybe the town would help sponsor our event in a way through soft costs and just not charge us the entire amount for the police force for that day. I mean, we feel again that this is, you know, we're not having this often while we've done it, we're having it in downtown to bring merchants to that, or money to downtown. We had an example this past couple of weeks where an event was up at the fairground and it almost generated no income for the vendors downtown and merchants downtown. That's not what we're about. We want to stay downtown, but we have to be able to afford it. And if we're a negative budget for an event, we have to look at that event and say, do we really want to do this? Even though it's a huge benefit to the community. Or maybe not, do we want to do it? We definitely want to do it, but can we afford to do it? So anyway, I'm just throwing that out. I'm not asking for a vote or anything at this time, because I know you're gonna continue to revisit the fees and the fee structure, and my numbers could be completely wrong, but I ask for that consideration. Any questions?
Thank you, Larry. I do know that, anytime we have any kind of event downtown, brings in tax revenue, sales tax, and that's, the town benefits that, significantly. Okay, going on, the Allegheny planning, we got anybody here to speak about that? Fiddler's contribution. Allegheny Rescue Squad, you guys are up.
Good evening. First of all, I'll say, start off saying, I appreciate everything town does for the rescue squad. Your support goes a long way. I'm not gonna be here for 15 minutes, I'm gonna make it short, but, let's give you kind of a rundown of why we asked for an increase this year. Last quarter, first quarter of the year, we had 487 calls that were dispatched to, 310 of them was inside city limits. That's 63.6% calls that we're running inside, city limits. Today, as of today, we, have 33 people on the roster. 10 of those are paramedics, 7 are EMTs, 5 are emergency medical responders. That's all on Cal State certification. We have 15 technical rescuers. And, the increase on call volume has almost doubled countywide. For the ones of you who don't know, we cover the whole county, 237 square miles. We're the only rescue provider in the county, which is why we hold 8 rescue certifications, state certifications from ag rescue, high angle, water, heavy rescue. We're working on our members now. Our next class is gonna be confined space. We feel like that'll be an asset to the town, in parts of the county as well. Manholes and stuff like that. We have the equipment to do it with, and we got some that are certified to do it. but the state requires 8 of us to be certified before they give us that pretty green certificate. So that's what we're working towards now. Other than that, you know, something that the PD was talking about is the radios. You mentioned the county's turned over 800, town's gonna do the same thing, and our goal is countywide is to be 800 for our people. The VHF system, as Chief Terry said, is gonna be obsolete, and those radios are cheap. Handheld radios from 3,000, 6,000, depending on the brand. If you want one in your car, you're looking 6,000 plus. So, we got new equipment that's coming in, we got probably some of the best equipment in the state, I put it up against anybody. Some of the, you know, the equipment on vehicles, for instance, we got a truck on order, won't be here, they won't put it in production until 2028. 4 years ago, that truck would have been $500,000, and time we get done with it, it'll be well over $1 million. Equipment costs, 4 years ago, the Jaws of Life would have cost you around $11,000 for a battery operated Jaws of Life. The one we bought last year was right at 20 for the exact same tool. And technology is always improving. It's getting stronger, faster, safer, more efficient. You can do rescues quicker. So that's, you know, that's the reason, for the almost doubling our budget, with the town this year. And we went to the county as well to increase that. So that's where we're at. If there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any I can. I think now, being Wilk shut down, we're maybe the only paramedic level rescue squad in the state. So, that's a big help for us, and you know, we do it as a courtesy to the county. I think we responded 17 times, looked it up for our company, I think it was 17 times in our ambulance. Inside the city limits and transport 11 people, free of charge.
And all 11 of those had a paramedic on board.
Well, it takes, volunteers like yourself. That's something that's hard to come by anymore.
The volunteer days are soon to be over.
Yeah.
We do have 10 junior members. Our goal this year is to focus big on the youth. So that program is continuous to grow, and it seems like every month we're gaining 1 or 2. And we're throwing them out to the wolves, so
That's a good program, start them out, get them interested, don't burn them out.
no, we ain't burning out. They meet once a month. I think next Saturday we're gonna install them out and teach them more rope work, wilderness medicine stuff. They go from 12 to 17. We got 10 of them.
That's great.
Very good group of kids.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before we quit, we have added a paid staff to the rescue squad. Right now, there's 5 of us, 2 paramedics, 3 basics, every one of us is trained in the TR, high angle, water, everything. Our response time is being cut anywhere from 7 to 8 minutes for a truck to roll out of the building to less than 2 minutes now. The fatality down here on Main Street, across from Burger King, me and Holly was working, we was first on scene in 1 minute and 13 seconds. So the paid staff is, we're not doing it for pay, we're doing it to get there quicker. But, that's part of the increase for y'all and the county, is to keep the paid staff because it's making a difference. So, thank you.
Appreciate it. Contributing to the fireworks, we anybody on that? Allegheny Wellness. Steve Mason.
I really just wanted to thank y'all for what y'all done in the past. Realize that, in current times, you know, we're in a position where we're not being funded you, but in the same token, we wanna make sure that, we thank you for everything that, we've received in the past, and just wanted to recognize that, so, yeah. I did have one thing though, and I don't know, you can tell me if it's appropriate or not. We did have discussions in the last meeting that I attended, from a TDA standpoint. And I don't know if that's even relevant to what we're talking about today, or should I even comment on that, or is it because it's not on the agenda?
That is it'll be discussion that Mr. Atwood's gonna bring up during the budget side.
Okay, that'll be fine. And if there's any questions, I'll be here for that. Thank you. Yeah.
Next is Allegheny Arts Council.
Hi, I'm Dana. Thank you guys, as everyone else said, for supporting us in the past and in the future. And thank you for supporting all the other organizations, because I'm in danger of Burger King. I want the rescue squad there in 13 seconds. So this year we requested 5,000, which is the same as last year, what we received, but it was an increase from previous years. We thought it was okay to still ask for that same amount, since, as I mentioned, the fees for the police force and everything will be increased, so meet in the middle somewhere. And also happy to talk deeper about that another time if necessary. But yeah, Music on Me, I hope you guys have all been and know it. We do everything to basically support downtown, just like the Chambers. We've expanded this year. The first one was inside, but it was really cool. We were able to show the motor building if anyone got to come. But we've increased the number of openers, and we're able to partner with more downtown businesses and spread out where the openers are, and all those are local bands. Yeah, and everything is just basically here to support the town. And then, though the number is very important of what we receive for our budget, almost equally as important is for us to be able to show to the North Carolina Arts Council, who gives us the bulk of our funding, that we're supported by our town. That's a very important criteria, and so thank you guys for helping us show that. And we are trying to increase our fundraising, our grant writing, and everything to be more self-sustainable. So like I said, the number is very important, but it's also just about showing support for all those things. You guys have any questions on here?
Okay, thank you. Arts is very important to have, we're surrounded by all these other towns that's got, events going on. It's kinda like all the towns are competing to bring in, people into their town. It's to bring people into town, they want to spend money. So, thank you. Allegheny Historical Society, anybody speaking to them? Recently lost a very important member of that organization. Target right there, she was very instrumental in forming that.
And keep it going.
Yeah, keeping it going. So, we salute her. Allegheny Fairground, anybody speaking about that? County Fowler.
Do you guys have a copy of our budget and expenses from last year?
You're welcome. My name's Stacy Barker. I'm here on behalf of the Allegheny Agriculture Advisory Board here. Chelsea's with me as well, so first off, y'all, we do want to tell you all thank you. Without your support the last couple of years, we wouldn't have been able to have a fair. It takes a lot of moving parts to make it work. So, if you will remember, unfortunately, last year, the week of the fair was the week of the hurricane. So that was our big reason for the change of the request this year was, we still had a lot of expenses that unfortunately
we didn't have any gate money. You know, we got a little bit and we about broke even, but the rides were already there, everything was already set up, we had already advertised, we had already pretty much paid for everything, and then we had 2 days of rain, so. That was our big reason for the increase this year. I think Chelsea had give y'all a copy of expenses and everything from last year, how that fell out. And then this year, we are gonna try to do the same thing. The rides is always our big expense.
When is it scheduled for?
It, this year is scheduled for September the 11th through the 14th. Last year was our first year of trying to do the truck and tractor pull, so of course we were not able to do that with all the water. So we are trying to do that again this year, that's another big expense, to get the slaves here and everybody here. We're trying to do that, so right now that is planned for Saturday. Friday night, we were trying to do the horse pull, I don't know if y'all came in 23, we did do that, and we had excellent, participation, and fairgrounds was packed that Friday night. And then, of course, we just have your normal, you know, we have to advertise, we've got the exhibits, we have to buy ribbons for all that. Insurance, cleaning, wristbands, about anything else you can think of that goes on with it. Anything else for you?
Yeah. So if you'll, see, like Stacy said, the rides have increased about $10,000. The reason for that is we've added a couple extra rides. And if you were at the Apple Pie Festival, all the bounce houses, we have requested to bring those bounce houses to the fair as well. Because the bounce house company provides all the work for it, and it's not a great additional cost. But since the ride company doesn't offer bounce houses, we think it's a great addition for the kids. So that'll add 5 bounce houses, and then the ride company is gonna add a couple extra rides this year. Last year, we had about 50 people signed up for the truck and tractor pull, and so that would be about 100 to 125 hooks. So that would have been a great attendance, and we're expecting that to be even greater this year. And then, of course, the horse pull. The livestock shows, and the exhibits are 2 of the other bigger payouts. Last year, even with the hurricane, our exhibits, the Black Building was basically full of exhibits. So we're trying to get those kids involved as much as we can. That's another reason we try to have the fair at least a month after school starts, so we can have those art teachers and those teachers getting the kids to do stuff at school to bring to the fair to exhibit. And that also pulls those kids and tells their parents, hey, our stuff's at the fair, can we go to the fair? And that usually works on the parents since their stuff is exhibited at the fair. Another thing to inform you guys, it was publicly posted today, my position at Soil and Water. I will be leaving Soil and Water and headed to the high school as the new FFA ag teacher. So that's gonna help in our livestock show aspect of things to get those kids involved as much as possible, because that is my goal as an ag teacher and currently at Soil and Water, is to involve those kids because they are our future. With that being said, that is the reason that our budget. Oh yeah, so Thursday night is our kids' night, so we have the sheriff's department involved. Partnership for Children comes and does events, so we try to pull the kids. We also each year pull 2 grades, kindergarten through 5th grade. So we get 2 grades out of a hat, and all those kids in the county get a free ticket for that Thursday night. So we try to, and then all the businesses that sponsor get some free tickets. So you'll see on our expenses last year, we still had 85 vouchers turned in for people that sponsored.
Thank you.
And I've got one question. Do you see a time when you think that the ag fair will be self-sustaining?
Well, that is our goal,
Mhm.
yes. When we started this back in 2019, I think, our goal is to eventually, yes, get it to that point. But, you know, everything keeps going up, and then last year was a killer.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, we thankfully, we had enough donations last year to make it work, and we didn't go in the hole. But that is our goal, yes, to get it to where we don't have to ask money from y'all or from the county or anybody, but it's just gonna take us time to get there. So, and I mean, it's a lot of cost, you know, and then the rides, especially, that goes up every year. Cause that goes up $2,000 to $5,000 a year, unfortunately. And they are the big driver on when we have it, because we have to do our schedule right there.
Yeah, without the rods, we've tried it in the past, there is absolutely no fan.
You know,
Is the
kids enjoy
county
it.
and TDA, everybody pitching in this year?
Yeah, so county we have asked them to review our budget, we did the same thing, we gave them a cost breakdown, so we've asked them to revisit us, to see if they can contribute more, and then the TDA, we also have asked for them to.
Yeah, we got to send in an application for TDA, but they've usually been really good to help as well.
Under your income from last year, you put county paid to ride $5,000, is that what they gave you last year?
That's all they give,
The town gave 10,000, the county only gave 5 last year.
and that's been a big drop this year to the county, is why we just say Allegheny Ag Fair, not Allegheny County Ag Fair, because they are only given $5,000 and the town is given a lot more than that. And then, of course, the TDA is one of our biggest sponsors there. We have, a couple sponsors that are given more than the county, like local businesses that are given more than the county.
There again, you know, it's bringing people in the town, into their county. So it's everything like that, Allegheny County and Sparta, brings in income.
Well, back in 2023, we had went through and we figured out we had North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia. And I think between town and Twin Oaks, most of them, and the Allegheny Inn, they always say they're packed. So, I mean, it does bring a lot, especially over those 4 days.
Right.
It really does.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Can I make, one more comment, something I forgot?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was squirming, I was trying to think how to do that. So I'm glad they're here to help me remember that, last year, before the hurricane hit, we had planned to do a cross promotion with the Ag Fair, where we operated a shuttle to bring folks downtown, back and forth and kind of bring business downtown. And I failed to mention that when I talked about the, Apple Pie Festival, because we didn't do it with the Apple Pie Festival, and I think we suffered because of that. So I'm not blaming anybody. But we're gonna be looking at, Fiber Fest, the Fiddlers Convention, and the Ag Fair as well, to do cross promotion to downtown merchants and those events that are at the fairgrounds. So whether it's a shuttle or whether it's just promotional items, like we're gonna do something to the effect of weaving your way through downtown, for the Fiber Fest. And, you know, fiddle on downtown or fiddle downtown or fiddle around downtown, something like that for the Fiddlers Convention. So we're trying to be proactive, you know, and not just say, oh, anything that's at the fairgrounds is bad, that's not true. We just need to be more creative about doing business throughout the county and not just out there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Number 9, budget discussion.
So council, at this time, we're gonna discuss, the budget, see if there's any questions. Everyone's had a week and a half to review them. I do wanna point out a couple of changes that were made. Down in section 15 is gonna be the fee schedule itself. Talking with staff, we did, go back and we reassessed the park fee as well. And we decreased the park fee significantly, but we are also going to continue the difference between town residents and non-town residents. And just to explain why it is that there is a difference between a town resident fee and a non-town resident fee. It takes tax dollars to have this park maintained. For us to send staff members to clean the park, for us to mow the grass. It's our residents' tax money that gets utilized for it. The people in the county get to enjoy the park. but none of their tax dollars are utilized for maintaining that park itself, unless they go to the store and purchase something, and then we do get a percentage of the, sales tax back to us, but, it is ultimately, in order for us to have a park, in order for us to maintain a park, our citizens in the town have to pay the tax of 39 cents per 100 valuation, and us make that work to maintain, ensure that, we have the park fully operational, that we can make reservations, and while I understand, you know, that everyone says, there's a lot of people around us that say, well, I am from Sparta. Maybe from Sparta because you have a Sparta zip code, but you don't pay the property tax that all of us that live in the town of Sparta will be paying, or pay. And I say all of us because I've just purchased a house in the town itself. Because I do have a strong belief that if I'm going to be a town manager, you know, I should partake in the same thing everybody else does. But, so we did decrease that. I do want you to, I did want to bring that out to you that under the new fee schedule for the park, we're now doing a half day, either first half or second half for town residents of $30 for that. And that again will mean that nobody else is gonna be able to utilize that shelter. We're only allowing one shelter that's being able to reserve, that's the one in front of the, that has a concession stand. And for non-town residents, it's gonna be $40, it's $10 more. We base these prices off of what the county is charging for Veterans Park to be competitive with them. Of course, it is, the competitive price is the inside, not the outside. The outside's still $10 more. And then a whole day itself is gonna be $60 and $70, so it's a $10 difference. And then, of course, if you want the concession stands, it changes, that gives you access to concession stands as well. And we did add something that we noticed the county charges, and that's for a corporate for-profit event. So if a corporate organization wants to make an event there, and they're using it for profit, they are gonna be charged more in there. And if that's depending if it's a corporation, it's inside the town or corporation outside the town. So if company ABC in Laurel Springs wants to come in here and host a event at our park and they're gonna make money off of it, and they're gonna pay the outside rate to be able to host an event there. We did add some stuff down at the very bottom. There is a rule that says Cross Park is a public park open for public use and enjoyment from dusk to dawn. Reservations will block off the requested facility for private use by the requester. Just that facility itself. We are not blocking off the park. Because the park does not have a fence around it, you cannot reserve the entire park. There's no way for us to prevent anybody else from coming in on one side of the park over the other. So if an organization wants to have an event at the park, they have to be mindful that it's public parking, because we have no way of blocking it off, and we're not gonna install a fence around our park, that they can't reserve the entire park. And that goes back to, well, use a hospital for example. The hospital has requested to utilize this park for their walkathon and everything else. What we'll do is we're basically not gonna allow no one else to reserve anything else. They cannot reserve the Cross House, they cannot reserve the shelter. So to do that, we've added a special permit, or park special permit. And what that does is there's nonprofit, and that's gonna be for nonprofit organizations and corporate for-profit organizations. Because we cannot reserve the shelters, we cannot reserve the Cross House during that time, there will be a special permit. That means you can have that park for whatever you're gonna do that day, whether it's gonna be an all-day event, whether it's gonna be a temporary event. And then, of course, there is a note in there that says council may reduce fee for event open to the public. That was something that was a question that you had asked, if that's something that we can do. And I would use, for example, the Easter egg hunt they do on a yearly basis, that there is no registration for it. You show up and you get to participate in it for your kids. Council, by doing this, council has the ability to say, we're not gonna charge for that specific event if we don't want to, because it's an event that's gonna be open to the public, and we would rather support it than we would charge for them. But you also do have the caveat that says it's nonprofit or it's profit, we can charge it, or we can do a reduced charge compared to what it is. Where you can come back and say, if we just pay whatever it costs us to have somebody there that whole day, however you handle it, but there is a base price. So the council does have the option to change that base price. And when I say base price, that's also what I mean that we're not gonna charge more than that amount. In other words, if the price is $200 and that's the max we can charge, it's gonna be $200 by our fee schedule. So you can go less than that maximum that's on there. I did wanna point out those fees as well. There is another, when you go to water and sewer, we have, not added this in here yet, but we will add it with, and that's and to the published schedule, that's gonna be a late fee. As we move to the new AMI system, we are, updating our policies. These policies will be made available for you at the June meeting. That's gonna be, the policy that will be updated, that will be given to you for the June meeting is a, water leak policy, and there will be a cutoff policy that will be in effect, and those will be posted. So the way the water leak policy works, and just kind of a brief synopsis that we've, worked on so far with the staff is, we will allow one adjustment to your bill in a 12-month period, but it must be reported to the town within 60 days. And this adjustment must be for an item that should have been reasonably found and taken care of by the property owner that is not, that's out of their control. In other words, a service line from their house to the meter has busted on their side, and they didn't know that service line busted. We can adjust it, they notify us within 60 days. We will not, however, continue to do water adjustments for people who refuse to fix leaking faucets, people who decided they were gonna wash their car and left their water hose on and forgot about the water hose for a couple hours later, or someone was gonna fill the bathtub up and got busy doing something else, came back and realized their bathtub overfilled and has ran throughout the house. We cannot continue to assume those losses. And I will have for you at the June meeting, the total amount of money that the town has had to write off because of the current practice that has been used up to this point on water leak adjustments. And just a kind of a brief synopsis of I was working the computer and trying to find some documents, and I found a water leak adjustment or water leak write-off from a couple of years ago, and in a couple of months, it was about $12,000 that had been run off. So it's a item that has cost thousands of dollars, and our objective as we move forward is to eliminate that excess loss so that we can hopefully start bringing the cost of water to a more reasonable price for our citizens. The other policy that that will be in here will be the, or the other fee that will be added to the fee schedule. It's gonna be the late fee. There will be a $10 late fee, and it will be included in the updated policy for water cutoffs. If the customer is late, if they don't pay their bill within 15 days of the day that they get it, they will incur a $10 late fee. After the second bill goes out, if they don't pay it in 15 days, they're gonna be cut off. They'll be responsible for paying the entire balance, plus the late fee and the reconnection fee to have their services cut back on. We have had several instances where we've had customers come in here and they are 2-3 months behind and they're trying to get stuff on a payment plan. Or they'll come in, they're 3 months behind, they'll reach out to Allegheny Planning or Allegheny Cares, to try to get some help from them whenever they're told they're gonna be cut off. Allegheny Planning or Brock, as other people may know it, only does $100, where Allegheny Cares will do the full amount if you qualify for it. But we cannot continue to have the practice of allowing people not to pay their bill and there not be repercussions for them not paying the bill. It's just not fair to those that, pay their bill in a timely manner every month. So we'll do a $10 late fee that will be assessed on the 16th day after your bill has been sent to you. And in the policy, which of course the policy will be up for discussion, can be adjusted. The proposed plan is on, after the second bill, if it's not paid, it'll be cut off. But we'll, that's the only other fee I'm going to add to that fee schedule, the $10 late fee to the water service itself. And that will also be included in the sewer side as well, the $10 late fee on the sewer itself. However, they can only be charged for one of those, so the water sewer, because we do have some customers that may just do sewer only. So, I just wanna bring that out. At this point in time, I will open up for any questions that you have on the budget, and I'll start with however I want to go.
Are we gonna wait until the June meeting to discuss appropriations? I know we've not had, I don't think we've had a budget meeting with the full council since the ad hoc committee, talked about appropriations. And are we gonna do that? I didn't know if we were gonna do that today or wait until the June meeting.
We can do it tonight.
To do that.
We can do it tonight, and that would be the better option, because if we discuss appropriations and council is content moving forward with appropriations, I think that's the biggest part at this point in time of the budget. Unless you have a question on a specific department's budget, I'll be more than glad to answer those. I think the biggest thing was appropriations, after you heard their request, and if they wanted you to reevaluate. At this point in time would be the best option to discuss it, because we can make the adjustments that we need to make at this point in time moving forward. And, while we're all here together, make that adjustment, fix that by tomorrow morning, get it to the newspaper for them to publish, so we can hold our June 6th public hearing. And we can also have it posted, on our website and available, a hard copy available for people to see at, town hall. So if you'd like to discuss the appropriations, we can start that discussion at any point in time right now.
I mean, for the ones that.
I was just giving you the opportunity. I didn't know if you had something you want to say.
No, it was just, I just wanted to make sure that you guys had an
Yeah.
opportunity to talk to what the appropriations on the sheet were. Because I don't think you guys had seen those until today.
No, and I hadn't, only thing I guess I would be concerned about, is number one, how did we come up with these numbers? And number two, I mean, if you look at this thing, you got the Allegheny County Library, they're getting what they asked for, that's mostly for kids, for all the community, I know older folks use it. But then we go down here to the fair and we cut everything they've asked for. And me, myself, very, very, very much want anything that we can get in this community for our youth, and it drives me crazy when I see something else taken away from our youth.
Can I speak to that agricultural fair, cause I was in the ad hoc committee, and the reason that went to that, and that's why I asked that question of when they could be self-sustaining, was that the original request, my understanding, was temporary, and that they thought that by this time that they would be self-sustaining. But and we didn't even discuss the hurricane and what impact it would have had on them last year. So, I would be up for a discussion on that. That was just where we were, because they were supposed to be, at this point, be self-sustaining. But
It was interesting, and certainly that's correct on all counts. And I spoke with, Johnny Wishon, who came to our, meetings and asked for the appropriations after our, budget committee met. And I explained to him our situation with the budget. We had to cut 8% of our budget to keep from raising taxes We have multiple things that we find every day that have to be fixed, and told him that we were, had our employees that we had to maintain and keep them, retain them. And Mr. Wishon said to me that, he said, we appreciate everything you've done. He said we have, and the ladies brought those figures, for what he mentioned to me, if they had money in the bank, they had sponsorships, and he said, I think we will be fine this year. He said we appreciate everything you've done, but we understand your situation. I asked him if he would like for me to go speak to their board, and he says no. So, we certainly, it's a wonderful thing, and it does appear that they have an outpouring of support from the agriculture, big farming, interest here, and they're gonna try to do good things, and hopefully every year do a little bit more. But, as Mr. Boutron mentioned, it's something for everybody, but it's not something that is a particular benefit just to citizens of Sparta. And of course, we pay county taxes too. So our thinking in the budget here, and this is what I'm going over, is we gotta balance our budget, we gotta take care of our stuff, and, we had to make some really difficult decisions, but that's where it came from. And they said that even though the hurricane came through, they barely broke even, but that's certainly a sign that they're working hard, and they're building the thing up. And they're planning to, they want to expand, and we want to expand in the town, and we want to do more things in the town, but we can't do it until we can afford it. But that was a conversation I had with Mr. Wishon, who was the person that came to us, and he said that he was okay with it. So that's all that I know that hasn't already been mentioned.
And one other thing to note is was just a suggestion, coming out of those meetings, because we were trying to get the budget where there would not be a tax increase.
So,
And, if there's money available without a tax increase, remember, this was just a suggestion to get us to that point, to bring back so that there could be discussion on whether or not there is money to fund some of the things that weren't funded.
and we could add other things out, or Mr. Boutron, and Ms. Show could other things out of the budget and present them to us at the budget, at our budget meeting, and, this wasn't the only place things we cut, but cuts had to be made, where we've already been informed by the state that they're not gonna send us, additional funds, and, Mr. Boutron, I believe you said that our sales tax revenue is not projected to go up, any projections that you've seen. So we're trying to prepare for the worst and hope for the best.
Okay, so just to touch base on a couple of things, this is just a suggestion, but I want to get a budget message out to you and a 90%, 95% done budget, to you, so that you can all look at it and determine and set a public hearing date, and then we can move forward with that. We can still make some adjustments. After the budget message goes out, you can still make adjustments to it. And even after the public hearing is completed on June 6th, the option on June 6th is, once you receive the public hearing, the council can either, adopt the budget with the resolution, or we can not adopt the budget that night and schedule a meeting to come back and discuss the budget. But to touch base on some of these, as Councilman Green has suggested, and as Councilman Atwood said, these are the recommendations. They're up for discussion, and that's why we wanted to meet today and discuss them. I will say one thing that I think has made in our favor is, I think we have put a little bit of pressure back on the county to increase their funding for these organizations. As the Chamber of Commerce stated, they received 10,000 last year. They were slated for 10,000, and now they've increased to 38,000 at the latest budget update that was produced. And that was after we have cut them back from 29, and requested 29 to 19. Allegheny Planning, I'll give you an example on this one. I've had this discussion today with Ms. Schultz in the office, and Councilwoman Immediately, she called me, and I also had a discussion with her. Allegheny County, otherwise known as Brock, requested $4,500, and if you notice, the county's giving them $3,100, but the county is also charging them $3,100 to be able to operate in the facility that they're operating. And that paperwork Ms. Schultz has there, and we're more than glad to see it, so at the end of the day, they received nothing out of it. We placed a phone call to Brock to find out some information, because here is I'm looking at it from the town manager perspective. We're gonna give $4,500 to Brock. Do they track how much of that money goes to the citizens in the town of Sparta? Because this is their tax dollars for these individuals. And I'm not saying that no one needs to, that people don't need help. It's difficult times in our economy, but if we give $4,500 to Brock, and our side itself, the town itself, has in the past 3 years, in the past year, the town itself in the past year has only received, if I remember correctly, Monica told me it was $400 or $500. Last year we gave $4,500, 4,000 due. Last year we only received $400 or $500, which some of that money may go to Blue Ridge, which is fine. But how much of that money is utilized for town residents versus individuals that live out in the county that go to Brock and say, hey, I need some money for here, and, our town residents are not getting much of that $4,000 of their tax dollars to help them during their difficult times. I don't think we ever received a phone call back from them today, did we, Peggy? So my question to them was, is there a way that we can say 60% of our allocations from the town must be utilized for town residents, as we move forward? Meaning that that's 60% of that $4,500 must be utilized for the residents of town, because by these numbers, it looks like the county is giving them nothing, so we're giving them the money to help supply everybody else in Allegheny County. Does that make sense?
Well, personally, I wouldn't care if you didn't give them no money and give it to the Allegheny Fire over here. I think for them kids and stuff is more important than giving some to Brock. And like you said, 60% of the money or what might leave that they're not here in the town. But I'm like Josh with this fire over here. I think anything that you wanna put out for kids, we shouldn't do that. We need to find the money somewhere to help this out. And there's one more thing on my mind where we need to try to find some money to help something, but I'll bring that up at a later date.
One thing I wanted to ask is, so we're basically 8% over on the overall budget, correct? That's what got us to our taxes. We need to drop it 8% for no tax increase. Am I understanding everything right?
I think that's what we ended up dropping, 8%. We ended up dropping more than 8% to keep ourselves, to give ourselves a cushion, so we didn't want to run a fine line. Just a brief synopsis on a couple of things that got cut back. We cut out the intern on the administration side. We put money in there to get an intern from a university that we could try to get them to start working in government, and hopefully getting someone into those administrative positions into the future. We've cut that out. Now, that doesn't mean we're not gonna try to reach out to a university and see if we can do an intern that is not paid. So we're still gonna try to reach that out. The police department cut their 11th FTE position down to 10. So they're gonna be down to 10 full-time employees at the police department.
So while we're on that subject, how long has it been since we've had 10 full-time police department?
Hasn't been,
Not
I have
since
not
I've
been
been
here, no, not since I've been here, no.
So here's my thing, we need to find money. Why do we not cut 2 of those positions? That makes it 8 full-time police officers, including their office personnel. I'm just throwing an option out there for everybody. I don't know if they thought about it this way or not. But that's $40,000 a year, that's $80,000 plus FICA, plus insurance, plus retirement, blah, 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 I understand all that. And survive a year with 8 full-time employees and see what happens next year. Because obviously we're on a year-to-year deal now with the town anyway on our budget cycle.
I mean, I can,
That would be that much more money that could go back into these special appropriations. We still, I've not forgot, I don't know if everybody else has or not, but I still love the idea of Steve Mason and his sign that he brought to us a couple of weeks ago.
Yes,
I still think the town of Sparta could really benefit from that.
I think we need to try to come up with that money myself too.
it is a bit of a benefit, and I was gonna wait for Mr. Howard to get to that point, in a minute. In regards to the police department, they're allocated for 10 positions, but the conversation with, the chief the other day is, he's not looking to, hire one of those positions at this point in time, which would save them a significant amount of money. But if you'd like to cut another position out, this would be the time to do it, would be now versus at a later point in time.
I just feel like there is some places that we can cut some funding that's not being spent currently is where my mind's at with that. I feel like that's where.
Before we cut a position, can we look to see if there's available money first for these allocations? Because in my mind, Josh, what I'm thinking is, we've got to assign value to appropriations.
That's right.
With
And I'm
our
not saying-
police department, our value is in the safety of our citizens.
That's right.
And with agricultural fair, I agree with you 100%, and with what Turk said, is the value of what it does for our kids, especially in an agricultural community, which is what we're in. And I agree with that, and again, going back to the point is, we just were under the assumption that by this time they would be fully self-sustaining.
I understand all that, and I'm not saying that, we don't need the police department. What I guess I'm saying is if they've got money left over this year, I'm assuming it is from the open vacancies that haven't been filled in this budget cycle, is where I was getting at with that conversation.
That is correct. Now, they do have, they actually had 2, 3, got a phone call today, requesting the information. They're actually ready to go through 4 applicants that are applying, so they are, from what the chief wants, they will be fully staffed minus 1 position, and that's his decision, and I've expressed to him, he's gonna have to talk to you about his recommendation moving forward, which would save the town some money, but he's gonna have to talk to you about that position.
But how much overtime are we paying our police officers?
Right now, we're paying quite a bit amount because they're having it right, but we're able to offset it because you have the salary with the benefits that's not being paid to the other vacancies at this point in time.
But my point for the overtime is, we don't wanna burn out our officers either. The pay is one thing, but burning our officers out, making them work overtime every single pay period is hard on your employees. And I would not be in favor, if the chief says that he can do without 1 position, then absolutely, I think we can do away with that position. I don't think we should cut positions that he intends to fill.
Yeah, at this point in time, he intends to fill 9 of his 10 positions, and again, he came up and that was his, out of the blue, he walked in the office and he requested to have that conversation. And I expressed to him that was, we've allocated 10 in his budget with the salaries according to each one. And he would have to, he was requesting a change, I told him at this point in time, trying to split a position that he wants and change was gonna require us to redo the power pay scale. Would not be the best time to redo a pay scale, but, we could look at other options, And he came back and he said, well, I've got another option on how to save some money. As long as I can get my police officers filled. So that's what he wants to do right now. He's gotta go through the interview process and make sure he can have the personnel first. There is money in there, and that was a question that, getting to your discussion the other day, is do we have some money built in there that we can allocate for a couple other stuff? Yes. What we have done is, when, we left that meeting at the beginning of last month, Peggy, started looking at ways to cut. We cut that 1 FTE from the police department from 11 to 10, and then we cut out a part-time person for sanitation. we cut out the police department's vehicle, and the chief was, understanding of it, that there's no point in purchasing a vehicle if you don't have full staff in the first place. We cut out the $40,000 that we had put in for, intern usage, and it's something that they were gonna be paid $40,000, we're gonna try to split it between two interns. And we did a lot of elimination to get us down, so that when, Millie and, Farron came in, we were only looking at $123,000 difference without fund balance appropriation. And then we got down to 70 or 80 some thousand dollars. So then we used some fund balance, and put money back in capital outlay, which we did not have in the original discussion with the 3.5 cent increase. So,
If,
overall, we have some money in there at this point in time, that if council wishes to give some of these other organizations, we can move money to those items and give to them. I will, however, encourage you, and this is just a suggestion, council can do as they want, and we'll make the numbers work. Would not get into the point where we allow another government body to expect us to fund another organization, which is what has happened in the past.
and to, from, if you're, to Josh's point, if the chief of police at this point is comfortable with 9 positions and he plans to fill that, then can we not for 25-26 budget, cut the full-time positions down to 9? Josh said cut it to 8. He says he can do it with 9. So is that not, what would that do? And that, I mean, we're going in that direction.
That would be, again, something that he would have to answer, because he would have to know the long term, and that was our discussion with him, was you need to have long-term planning for your organization,
Right.
succession planning, and I think he's understood that, and explained to him how he needs to manage his FTEs and who does what. He's now doing a better job of planning his succession planning for his department. At this point in time, he would rather us leave it at 10, but he's gonna try to hold off on one until he feels it's the appropriate time. And he's doing what I did with water and sewer, he's filling from the bottom and working his way up, so he finally gets to where he wants to be with the other ones. But we do have some funds available without having to cut one of the FTEs in the police department to.
And that was just the first thing that came to my mind. I mean, it's not that don't think I'm sitting here picking on the police department, because I'm not. It's just that I know that hasn't been a full staff in quite some time.
Yeah, and that's why we're able to purchase their capital equipment that they want right now without having to go to the next. Now, the tasers, he did ask about the tasers. He asked if we could just outright purchase the tasers. I expressed to him we cannot outright purchase the tasers, because the plan for the tasers is that one of them breaks, and they're gonna break. If they get into foot chase, one of them breaks, the taser company will replace it immediately for us, because they know it is a crucial piece of equipment. So they try to get it to us within 2-3 days with a replacement. So that's why the tasers are not on a automatic purchase. That's why I've elected to leave those on a 5-year contract plan, because for 5 years, if anything happens to it, it's replaceable with them.
Can we, if we're gonna stay focused on our appropriations here for a minute, do you wanna go down the list of appropriations and then get input from, I mean, that's what I'm looking for, is input from you guys.
Well, he don't want to mention.
So, I mean,
Is that?
can we do that? Can we go down the list of appropriations and get input from Josh and Mike and Turk on what they think?
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Cause I don't want them to think that we just did this and that's the way it is. I want you guys to have input on what you think.
No, and this is why whenever we had that ad hoc meeting and we met with the department heads and we discussed this, I told you that I wanted to give you a budget message this last week, and then discuss appropriations the week afterwards today, because I want all 5 council members to be in agreement with those appropriations, for at least the majority of the council, however y'all want to do it, to be in agreement with the appropriations, and I expressed to you that, that was gonna be the one topic that would fluctuate. And I actually spoke to, Mr. Weaver from the newspaper, and I told him, I said, don't, the appropriations are gonna be discussed again on Monday, whenever me and him discussed this on Friday, and he was typing his article, I said, so it's not set in stone, because they may change depending on council's discussions on Monday evening, so we can go down item by item if you'd like.
Let's do.
And one of the, back to Ag Fair, I was contacted by one of the commissioners and asked why we did what we did, and I explained, our budget situation, and I said, basically, we're in a situation, we've inherited expenses, we've inherited, problems that we have to fix, and as the old saying goes, you gotta save women and children first, so we're trying to maintain, keep our personnel, we've got good staff, and that commissioner said, well, I understand that, so,
Before we start down that list, can I mention one more thing? What would happen if we took 8% off of every one of these of what we gave them last year?
What'd you give them last year? We'll get you the number and tell you where we're at.
that would be as fair as you could be.
I've got the numbers wrote down here if it helps any. Because, it don't drop it dramatically. But, that should be fair to everybody. We're 8% over. That's gonna hit it on the head. Everybody's still gonna get something. Now, Chamber of Commerce, they got extra from the county this year, so I don't think we got to give them as much.
Well, in the chamber.
We're okay with the 10,000.
It's, just because you're still sitting here.
But Mr. Green, I've heard a point, but Mr. Van Hugen and I spoke, well, the chamber gets a facility from the town, and they're very grateful for
Right.
that. We give them a facility, we pay the water, we pay the insurance. So, as he said, he's very grateful for what we're doing. And it's nice that the county's decided to do something well, but we do provide that facility for the chamber.
I do like that 8% from each one right there, that's about as far as you can get.
But now, Josh, you said 8% just was special appropriations, you said 8% through the whole budget.
Just the special appropriations, and then, I know that's gonna cause us having to find something else in the budget. I understand that, but, I feel like everybody's still, they're getting something, they're not getting as much as we gave them last year, or the 24-25 adopted, but they're still getting something.
But I think the, one position from the police department will cover that.
Yes, it would.
And another point that I have mentioned before now, there's nothing in this world well, all of these organizations are good. But when we started this, it was started years back before you all were here, it was started, years back. But when we sit here and we're the stewards of the taxpayers' money, and we say, we're gonna allocate a certain amount of money to certain organizations, we're basically telling the taxpayers, who they're gonna support. And if you look at it just from a purely physical prudent standpoint, that's not our job. Now, I have an option to support all these things as an individual, but I don't really have the authority to tell the citizens of the town of Sparta which organization that they're gonna support. And that's the way that I look at it, being a fiscal conservative. It's not been looked at that way in the past. But, in all due respect to everybody concerned, we have an obligation to run the town, to make sure that the water comes on, make sure the sewer works, make sure people feel safe and secure in their homes. And we also, to the organizations that have things downtown, it's wonderful. We're paying $92,000 a year for 40 years for the streetscape. So it's not like the town citizens are not supporting all these organizations that have things downtown. And in my own, the way I perceive it, these are good organizations. If the Chamber of Commerce is a good thing. If I think the Chamber is a good thing, I should join the Chamber. I should support them. And so that's it's a new way to look at it, but from the standpoint of we're the stewards of the taxpayers' money, I think that's the way to look at it. And that's my thoughts, and that's my thoughts.
And I think too, we just need to look at what the return on our investment is. If the chamber, if we're getting a return on investment from the chamber, or a return on investment from the Arts Council or the Ag Fair or whatever, then I think it's money well spent.
And the TDA, now in years past, when previous board, previous management were giving money to these organizations, the TDA didn't exist. And the TDA was set out in the general statutes by the General Assembly specifically to help tourists. And the TDA's done a super job doing that. And that's money that's available that in years past, when the town and the county were supporting things, that wasn't in play. So that's another reason that was then, this is now. And the TDA's done a super job supporting every organization, to my knowledge, that comes to it for money. So that's a dynamic that wasn't there when these things started.
So is that something that the board could agree on to move forward to the June first meeting, is starting with this 8%? If the chief says that he's fine with going from 10 to 9, am I saying that correct now, what we heard right? Okay. I mean, that's gonna put us pretty well where we need to be, and possibly some money for some signs.
So, I will say, we're okay with the 1/3 cut, so.
I was really just kidding.
I don't wanna be greedy.
Well, I still like to see something.
Again, we're grateful for
Us
what
to
you
do
did.
away with Hoseo, there's, I brought it up last year. I ain't never went for this $5 that they charge you for a vehicle you sit here in town.
So the,
I ain't never liked that, I'd like to see that go.
I've not been a real fan of that myself, and I apologize for not mentioning the budget meeting.
so the, I'll just hit on the $5 and we can discuss this more in a little bit. Then I'll get back to your question here, Rick. The $5 we took out of the original budget that had a 3.5 cent increase. But then when we went back and when we did our cuts, we added that $5, which is just a little bit under $10,000. I think it's just.
It's
shy of
total per year.
$9,000. Huh?
It's total per year.
It's total for the year, so it's just a little bit north of $9,000 is what it is. Now, with, I mean, if we cut that out, again, we're going back to cutting these items. Let me go back to my sheet right here that I have.
And while you're looking, Mr. Bouchon, to Turk's point, it was stated when it was implemented that this was for people that didn't pay property tax. It's a bit regressive, the people who rent here, their rent is based on property tax that the landlord has to pay. So the idea that people who rent don't contribute enough is flawed in my opinion. And I've never been a fan of the $5 wheel tax. I wasn't a fan of the $10 wheel tax from the county years back, neither was anybody else that I recall.
And that is, that line item under your general fund revenues is, under the motor vehicle tax. It was originally $70,000, so what it was budgeted for this year. We budgeted for $60,000 with the original 3.5 cent increase, and then when we went back and we did the cuts, we added that back in there to help offset again, see if it would, how, that was an additional $10,000. Now, just to kind of talk about a couple of different things, and I'll go through each one of these items individually if you want me to. I don't mind. The library did stay at 18.5. The Chamber of Commerce had $10,000 cut, which if you wanted to cut out your property tax, that would be your $10,000 cut. Aside from what was all, I mean, that's.
If we cut the vehicle tax, that's where.
You would be at, if you had them at $19,000, you can, but, as we go down, we'll talk more about it. Allegheny Planning, which is Brock, again, that's $4,500 from the town. The county's only giving them $3,100, but it's charging them $3,100, so in essence, we're the ones that are giving them that money right there. The Fiddlers Convention didn't request anything. The Rescue Squad, we cut them back from their requested 40 to 25. Mr. Atwood suggested 25 and no more than 25. The JC Fireworks, The county is actually gonna contribute $1,000 more on that line item itself. The Allegheny Wellness Center was cut out. The county is only giving $33.75, is in their proposed budget. So we would be supplying more than the county is going to. The Arts Council, the county only gives them $1,000, and, they're requesting $5,000 from us. And the reason they requested $5,000 was to cover expenses of hosting their event to the town, to pay the town back. So one of my suggestions to that was either you waive the fees for them, or you know, if you can give them the money and then expect that money to come back. That was a discussion from council. You know, do you waive the fees, and do you waive, the cost of what it costs for us to what the town incurs from there as part of their $5,000. Again, the county though only gives them $1,000. Allegheny Historical Society decreased from $2,500 that they requested the year before to $2,000. If you did an 8% cut, you're gonna give them more than what they requested, but if we did 8% from the 2,000 instead of 2,500, you know, that would put them lower.
The 2,000 is the proposed.
2,000 is what they, 2,000 is the proposed, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right, I misread that. 2,000 was the proposed, the county only gonna give them $625. So again, we're giving them more than the county's going to. Then the Allegheny Fair, they requested $15,000 from us, and the county only wants to give them $5,000. I don't have an issue, and we'll make the numbers work, because we've gone back, we've done some rearranging, we can make it work. I would, however, you know, just ask council to not put us in a boat where, and I'll use the chamber, because the chamber's in here, where we carry the budget for this organization when we don't get the funding that the county receives, because the county receives a lot more funding than the town does. And it either needs to be an even share of it, or they need to carry a heavier load than the town does, unless it is an organization or entity that solely helps to serve the town itself. Then at that point in time, it would be rightful for the town to carry most of the weight of that organization. And it's not to cast stones, it's just to utilize the taxpayers of the town's money adequately. And I don't have a problem with it, and we'll make it work one way or the other. We do have some money built in there, and I'll use the Wayfind sign. Mr. Atwood asked me, did we have any funding in there to assist him with the Wayfind sign? Yes, we do have some money in there that we can. Steve had actually approached me afterwards and asked me, you know, there's nothing, is there nothing in there at this point in time? And I explained to him that there is not a dedicated line item for the Wayfind sign. And, if we continue the practice that we have this year with watching what our expenditures are and being very strict on managing our budget, last year you allocated $491,000 from fund balance, and we're not even going to utilize $491,000 this year for fund balance. We did put some money in fund balance, move some over so we can take some into additional items, like, for appropriations. And we did put some money into capital, outlay, which we did not have in the original budget. So, with that said, yes, there is some money available at this point in time that we can make work, but we will have to make some moves here and there.
And we did discuss on the capital outlay, last year was a different year. And our desire not to use any more from the fund balance than we possibly absolutely have to, because if we prepare for the worst and hope for the best, once that fund balance is gone, it's gone. And if our revenues don't increase, if the sales tax remains flat, it's not a real good idea from a fiscal conservative standpoint to get into the fund balance unless it's an emergency.
In,
It's my fault.
in capital outlay, which is what we had not funded, the original budget, discussion we had, that's gonna be section 8 of your budget packet. We have added $58,478 to that item. We can bring that down and move some of that allocation to other line items if you want to. If you take away the $5 property tax, we'll have to take it out of 58,000, and then that would be the item that we would start cutting back from right now.
Before we start talking about moving out of that capital outlay line item, because I think it's important to have money in there for unexpected capital expenditures that we're gonna have during the year. If we cut that one position, if, the chief of police says it's okay to cut that, or he's comfortable with cutting that one position, with salary plus benefits, that's about $60,000, give or take. And we've already said that, the chamber, is comfortable with that 10,000 cut, which covers your $5, vehicle tax. So, we still have $60,000 from that one position to work in appropriations and stay within our budget without cutting our capital outlay from this one position. And I think if we focus on that $60,000 and working that and making these appropriations come out, then our tax number's gonna stay the same and we're gonna stay within our budget. And with $60,000, I think we're even have an opportunity to even be lower than what we were before. So why don't we start with the $60,000, look at our appropriations, we keep getting off the path.
No, and I'm fine with that, and I actually just sent, Andy to get more, because I wanted him to explain to you what he wants to do. So that way you hear from the department head, because it's his recommendation and not mine.
Yeah.
You know, my recommendation as a town manager is, you know, not cut any staff, just because it's always difficult to get staffing increase there. But when the department head requests to cut a staff member, you know, it's always better that they explain to you, because they understand the long-term planning of how they're gonna run the department. So I'll let him explain that to you, and I don't have a problem with that, but you are correct, if you would cut that, you're looking at about $60,000.
And my little adage that I love so good, you gotta save the women and children first. When I'm saying that, I'm talking about our staff. We have to take care of our own people. And the old expression that my mother loves to use, charity begins at home. But, women and children first means we have to take care of our folk. And then if we can do other things, that's good. And none of this is to say that we don't think these are good organizations, but we have an obligation, first and foremost. So that's where we are.
Peggy, correct me if I'm wrong on this, or make sure we do this right. If we cut the 10,000 vehicle tax out, to make it balanced, we're gonna have to move that from.
We're gonna take $10,000 away from the capital restricted, or we can take $10,000 from contingency, that's at 30,000 and make it 20,000. And that keeps the budget balance on both sides.
So we can do that with that $5 vehicle tax. If you.
We just need to make sure that we get it in time, pass the budget, so we don't know.
Right.
Cause, you know, they have to go through the process with the state.
I like that. Don't you like that, Turk?
But that would be, those are the two sections.
I need to wait to start with it, don't write it down.
Soon as the budget-
Jose, if you can't come up with all that money there, I'm just talking to Mr. Green here, get rid of this planning, that $4,500, and I'd be real tickled to give that to the fairground for the kids. Unless, maybe you come up, well, I just think we need to give help them out if we
Yeah, I
can.
agree, but I
Understood.
Go from that 60 like you was talking about.
but I still think the money for the Brock, I think Brock
You,
is a good
okay.
organization. And I
Mr.
think they help a lot of people.
Mr. Blair, were you not on that board?
20-some years.
Mr. Blair said over here being awful quiet, would you like to talk, speak to the Allegheny planning or not?
It is, you know, it is, and I think it's part of it.
I'll get it planning right there, we, you know,
We get, yes, we can, we get,
they do Head Start,
yeah.
they do, weatherization homes. They give money there, you know, to people that help them, with utilities in the wintertime. It's a good organization there, they,
No, I ain't kicking that one bit, like, I know they are, they're good. But I just, like I told Brian, I think we can get both of them, I think we can get some money for that, for them kids, for that fire.
How much are you wanting to give to the fair?
As much as we can.
I would, they requested,
They requested 15, the county's on
15,
5.
and I was thinking more like 12.5. I mean,
I just, well,
just cut, you know, give them half of what they wanted to increase for, you know. And hopefully they can eventually get self-sufficient.
we go through.
Lord, will you step up to the podium, please?
Clean my glasses so I can see.
Chief, Terry said that we're discussing some budget stuff, and I explained to them that you approached me the other day with your FTE numbers, and you're recommending, holding off on the hiring of one of your personnel. And I told them that we and I had the discussion about that, and I kinda suggested we leave it in there, and you kinda suggested cutting it or changing it. I'll let you explain to them what your thought process are, and then we can discuss how we can make this work.
I appreciate you asking me about it, I really do. It's kind of a hard decision. I think that we could use that position down the road, but I don't know when we could use that. I guess that's my thought. We're trying to get staff now, that's why I've got somebody working on some background stuff. I guess, let me put it to you this way. If I hired an officer today to go to BLET with this new program we've started, you know, we got an opening, we hire them at a lower salary than a police officer, and we pay them while they go through their training, which is almost 7 months. And then they get out, they ride for 3 months, at least for field training before they ever get turned loose. So it's 10 months. So basically, if we started one in July this year, they'll graduate at the very end of December, 1st of January. And then they could come to work, but they'd still have to be trained, in field training with another officer. So it's such a, when I'm thinking about that and you think about budget cycles, you know, what is it there? Yeah, I would like to keep it, but I don't know if we'd be able to use the money in the next budget. I just don't know. I truly don't know. We've had a big uptick in people wanting to come to work here. We've had quite a few people. I just want to let y'all know that too. We have. Had one gentleman came in from, that lived, who's an Ennis. He works over in Virginia prison, but he was a police officer in Virginia years ago, a few years back, and he wants a job. So we're having people that's interested. As long as our pay is competitive as we can be, we'll attract people to the police department. But that's the hard part. I'm trying to decide, you know, what's the right decision for the town? What can the town budget? What is it that we need to do? You know, we could leave it in, but I can't say we could use that money. I know that's another FTE position. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Could you revisit it in the future before the end of the cycle? I don't know. I really don't. having 10 positions, counting myself, would still not give us, and having a detective, wouldn't give us another secondary officer, you know, at times, because I guess what I'm saying is, we want people to take vacations, we wanna be able to take time off, and right now, we can't do that. And I see the stress it puts on a lot of people. One asked me a while ago, so when you going home, I said, when I get a little more tired, I'll go home. So, but still, that's where I guess, I'm not trying to make a decision for you, I'm trying to give you information so you can make the best decision, you know, for the town. So, I don't know, I really don't, I don't know where we would be with that. And I don't know where the budget's at, and what you need to do.
So can you survive another year with 9 full-time
Yes.
employees?
We can. If we're fully staffed, we'll be fine with 9. It's just like I said, that other one, you know, maybe in the future, we'll look at it, next budget cycle can be looked at. That would give us, if we're fully staffed, that would give us a one on a shift, a float car, or I'll say float, but a mid shift. And that way, that would give us somebody to pull from, somebody on vacation.
And council, just so you are aware, the way the FTEs line out, and this is going from top to bottom, FTE number 1, all the way to FTE number 9. With his proposed, recommendation, FTE number 1 is gonna be your chief, number 2 is gonna be your office administrator that handles all the paperwork and everything else here. Number 3 would be your detective, and these 3 positions are your Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 positions up there. Number 4, and this is not a specific order, but a specific order FTE responsibility, but not saying that this is, if you're assigned a police officer number, whatever, that's your shift, but FTE number 4 would be the, sergeant, which would be the supervisor of mid-shift. FTE number 5 is gonna be a daytime officer, number 6 would be a nighttime officer, number 7 would be the daytime officer for the next day shift, number 8 would be the nighttime officer for the next shift. So there's 2 daytime, 2 nighttime officers, and then FTE number 9 would be the spare officer that could be used as another mid-shifter, or can be used to cover days off for the individual. So does that kind of help lay out? That would be with 9 FTEs. The position that the chief recommended cutting, at the present time was his captain position, which has a salary of, $66,000.
So that's gonna make the number that we're talking about a little better than what we thought.
Yes, because it's gonna be a higher salary.
Right.
It does make the number a little better than what we have. It does-
Which position is he not
The
filling?
captain,
He wants to cut the captain position out at this point in time.
which is a $66,000 salary, not counting FICA or retirement.
I think we were covered with 60
Yeah,
on what we
absolutely,
were
yeah.
looking at.
So, to give Jose something to work towards toward June, do we wanna stick with knock 8,000 off of what we give him all last year, excluding the chamber, cause he's agreed that since the county stepped up, we wouldn't have to go as much?
Well,
or-
with the 10 would still have to come from the
That's
chamber
right,
to cover
so
the
just kinda
$5
forget that.
wheel.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is that a number for him to work with? I mean, to give him some numbers to work with?
But just throwing some numbers in here and just kind of looking at some stuff, give a few minutes. Peggy and I can throw some numbers, we'll take a quick recess for about 5 minutes or so. Let me and Peggy talk, and we'll throw some numbers so we can discuss those with all of you in just a few minutes. Does that work? What I'd like to do, if possible, is if we can agree on appropriations, so we can get this out for public hearing.
Well, we're getting closer.
So if you'll give us 5 to 10 minutes, just do a quick recess, and then we'll come back and let us punch some numbers into the system itself. Okay.
Alright, we're back in session. Talking about the, 2005-6 budget. And Jose, where we at?
Alright, so, we spoke with, Chief Terry. He, confirmed with him that he is understanding what would be cut from his department. And, at this point in time, he said he does. He's still here. That would still give him five patrol officers and, correction, six patrol and three, office staff. Which would put him at 9. That's gonna be one office, one administrative assistant, the chief, and then the detective that would handle those positions. And then you've got all your other facility divisions, which would cover their operations at this point in time. It would save us one administrative position in the salary. All right, let's go. With that said, speaking with several of you, there's a lot of mixed, I won't say emotions, but a lot of mixed ideas on how we're gonna approach this. The salary position itself does help out, with it moving forward. And I think, speaking with a couple of you during our recess there, I think you understand what I'm trying to come up with. You applied pressure. I suggest we keep the pressure of allowing another government entity that has a much more larger fund balance than we do to help offset some of the offsets, some of the costs. So with that said, one recommendation that was brought up to me totals up to 76,000, is that correct?
$80,500.
$80,500, and,
Can we go through what that recommendation is?
yeah, and that's what I was gonna go through. So, and then there's another one out there for it's got a $96,000 on it, so let's go by each line item and let's discuss it. At the library one, I think one recommendation was to cut it from 18.5 to 18 even. Council, what's your opinion on that one?
I agree.
I agree.
Any questions on that one? Okay. The Chamber of Commerce, I think everyone was pretty, content with just staying at 19,000 on that one.
I agree.
Okay. The Brock or Allegheny County, I think the consensus that I've received was cut it back to 4,000. Any other questions or any other opinions on that?
I agree.
The Fiddler's Convention requested nothing, so at this point in time it stays at 0. The Rescue Squad, I didn't hear anybody request any more cuts on it, so I think it was gonna stay at 25,000.
I agree.
Alright, the JC Fireworks, I think it stayed at 4,000, no one requested any cuts to it. Okay, now here we go to the other part where we get to have a discussion. So the Allegheny Wellness, one recommendation was 2,000, speaking to the representative there, I think the county has upped what they were going to give them from, based off of, some notification they received on Wednesday. The county is now offering to give them some more than the 3375 recommendation. By one council member was 2,000. Is there any other recommendation? I think there was another council member recommended 6,000, so at this point in time, we'll open that up for discussion.
I like the 2,000 idea.
I think, whatever the county observes, if it can be, equal or what we was going to give.
The county is upping it to 7,500 from the 3,375. So the three options at this point in time is, the recommended 6, the 2,000, or nothing. Those are the three that have been recommended at this point in time. And nothing, of course, being the original proposed, allocation.
I would agree with the 2.
I said I like the 2 to start with.
Okay.
George, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's nice to know that the county's stepping up, so I mean, yeah, that gets us right back to where we need to be.
Well, I'd like to stay at the 6, but I'll go along with what the council wants to do.
2 suits me,
Okay, we'll go with 2.
okay?
The Arts Council, the 3 options are, at this point in time, the county, we haven't heard anything else, but at this point in time, based off our Wednesday, what we received the other day was $1,000. We had 0. One suggestion was to match what the county was doing, which is $1,000. And if they want more, then the county can provide more. I'll open that up for discussion with the council.
And that was my recommendation, just to, we was matching the counties about, I'm with 1,000.
This is for the Arts Council.
Yes.
1,000's okay with me.
Well, 1,000 will be okay with me, but I think we need to waive the, town police assistance on their events.
That's gonna run us up to, you figured, and Mr. Flair, I believe you were here when we discussed that, but that's $14 per event downtown. Was the last figure that we got from the chief. So that's a pretty sizable amount. And they already agreed last year and earlier this year that we would set a fee schedule starting with a new budget. They're getting all their events, May and June are free, but that's kind of where we were. So I would not agree to waiving those fees.
Chief Terry, how many officers that you said was required for music on there?
For safety, it takes a minimum of 5. That's just one with the crowd and one at each intersection.
How many hours?
And it just depends on when we close the streets. If we close them at 4:30 till they get done at, of course, 9, 10, but it's probably 11 o'clock, so it's roughly from 4 to 11, let's just use a rough figure like that.
And last year, Chief, they closed them at 2:30
That's-
to put up the stage, so
That's correct.
that
That could change it.
adversely impacted
So-
as
Yes,
well.
yes.
So you're looking at 7 hours, correct?
Yes.
5 officers.
42 hours is the way I usually look at it, that budget is 42 hours, man hours total for the event.
So 5 officers, at $35 a night, an officer is $175. $175 times that by, what do you say, 5 hours? 7 hours. $1,225 per event in police department.
Only,
Right, on the police department fee, so,
you still have your maintenance, picking up the trash, putting out the cans.
we will do, starting June, where our budget does have part-time maintenance. That part-time maintenance person will be, added to it. We don't charge a fee for maintenance. The only thing that the fee schedule is charging is a $35 an hour police department, per officer, and then the police department elects to determine how many officers are needed for safety purposes, because they're the ones that have to take care of that responsibility.
And
So
how many
we don't-
events will there be after June? Is it July through September?
I think there's
2 or 3.
two or three.
Only 2 after June?
2, 3.
July, August, and September?
And they agree,
The last one they have at the park.
and they did agree earlier, we said we're gonna start charging a fee, they said, okay. They said it would have to have the budget, so May and June, will not be covered, so, again, I don't agree with.
Plus 2 next year before the next budget cycle, so that actually would be 5.
There again, you know, I was like,
So if you did a fee waiver for the police department itself, if you did that for 5 events, you're looking at $6,125 in-kind contributions to them. That's
But how
not
can we
monthly.
have a fee and then waive it, what's the point of that?
that would be, and that's kinda like on the park fee, that would be up to council to make that decision, I'm just giving you numbers. That's what, if you wanted to go, cause I know, Mayor Pro Tem asked about that, so, you know, how that would be, and I'm just giving you all numbers so you can make that decision, make a informed decision. If you waive the police department's fees per officer for 5 officers, meaning that if you need more than 5, you're gonna pay for more than 5, but if you needed 5 officers and we waive those for 5 events, you're waiving $6,125 in fees, which is more than what they requested in the, and their purpose of their request, was so that they could pay the town for the fees, is what they requested, 5,000.
So
And that
they're
money
asking,
comes right back to us, right?
they're asking us to pay them to pay the fees, and that's what's the point in that?
$2,000 enough to take care of the police department, cause it's coming back in, what do you think, 2,000?
It'd be 6,000 to completely pay for 5 events between now and next
Yeah.
June.
We set up a fee schedule,
Yeah, that's right.
and
I
if
forgot
we
about
don't,
that.
if we don't make them pay the fees, then the folks at the Chamber of Commerce are gonna say, well, why should we pay the fees?
What percent did we cut the chamber?
What's this, work council?
But, you know, you start cutting too much there from the Arts Council, there again, they have events right there that brings in people, that pays sales tax, which helps pay for the town to run. And if we don't do that, all these other towns is competing for those people to come into their town, you know, and we gotta try to, maintain, you know, at least the 5,000, in my opinion.
It was a little bit less than, a little more than 30, a little bit less than 35% is what you cut them, so if you cut the, Arts Council 35%, it'd be 1,750 that you cut out of that. Which would put them at 3,250.
Well, I do know something what Mike just said there, because I absolutely done heard about after the Pie Festival that it wouldn't be here next year, that it was going to get.
Well, that's,
I mean, that's,
unfortunately, that's just managed by someone other than the.
well, that, you know how much you leave out what's people know, so, but I've done heard that. I don't know, it's cause some of them mad because it all didn't come through town or what, they bypassed them around the bypass.
Josh, you're a small business owner in town. What kind of impact do you see as you come Main and stuff like that making to your business?
I don't, and I say that because I tried it the first couple of times and I do not stay open for that event anymore. But I can tell you and speak for the lady upstairs, I know she thrives off of that business. She has come to me several times and thanked me for continuing what we're doing, and, because it, her sales, I do know that.
And nobody's against the music on Main. It comes back to, we're committing tax dollars to an organization that is a member-driven organization. And the young lady that spoke to us said we barely broke even last year, but they did, and they get funding from the state. And she said we need to do more fundraisers. I had one person suggest to me, instead of the town, helping pay for music on Main or whatever, why don't they have a donation? Have donation jars, and just everybody that comes in, throw in $1, all right? They got hundreds of people come. So there's other ways that, it's not that we're saying we don't think this is a good thing. It is, we can't be the go-to to help these folks forever to do things. So that's my thought as well. And we're providing a wonderful venue to have it, $92,000 a year. We're paying because the downtown was completely remodeled so they could have nice events. So it's not like the town's not doing anything already.
because, I hate to see them out there that, I mean, it's like everything else, everything keeps going up. And they're, in order to keep a decent bands coming, they gotta have a little capital there to run on. And, I just don't think $1,000 gonna get it.
If we, by our earlier conversations about the, position, so far we saved 500 on the library, stayed the same on the Chamber of Commerce, saved 500 on the Brock, and stayed the same on the other two. So we've actually cut 1,000 instead of added any out of that position that we were talking about.
Yeah, and the wellness center too.
Well, yeah, we added 2,000, so we're 1,500 into that money then, I'm sorry. No, 1,000, because we cut 1,000, so we're $1,000 into the money that we were gonna use.
I think, the comment was just made in regards to them, it's not that you're not supporting them, but you're asking another entity to help support them as well, by matching it with them. Now, we do, our fee schedule will surpass even the 5,000 that they requested. Even if you gave the 5,000, that 5,000 is not gonna match the fees that they will require. That's just the police department fees. There's still the permits that they'll have to obtain that will be paid back to the town. And that permit, just so that you are aware, would be, under the fee schedule. Special permit, street festivals without alcohol is 200, with alcohol is 500 per event. So you're 2, 4, 6, 8, so you're looking at another $1,000 in, the permit that they will be taking out, so a little over $7,000. So it doesn't cover the stuff, and they obviously understand that those fees are gonna be moving forward, so that's why they requested that 5,000. I know it doesn't really make things easy for you, but I'm just giving you all the information so that the council can make a informed decision.
Going on what Mike had said and what Josh said, benefit, because to me, it's about assigning value to it. And if it's a value to our citizens, I would probably stick with last year's funding on that.
Well, I was gonna ask, can we just leave it at 5,000 and you work the numbers and see where it comes out?
Yeah, I mean, we can leave it at 5, and it's not going to, because we've saved in other places, and because of the police department, what they want to do, you can absorb that 5,000. It's not going to put us in the bind right now.
But we still continue to charge everybody fees for our services regardless of who's having an event, is that correct?
That's the only reason we're.
They would still have to pay the fees to the town.
Understood.
Yeah.
So they're gonna get that 5,000, they're gonna pay that,
Because we
plus
can't-
the additional money.
You can't cut some of them's fees and then charge other people.
That's right.
Like your kids, you gotta do the
That's
same with everybody.
I agree
So
with
if
that.
the fees are solid, good.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we'll put the 5 back in there. The historical society, I think it was, elected to leave it at 2, unless anyone has any other.
Two's good with me.
The only thing I'm asking, I'm not against it, I just wanna know why are we, what is the town getting for $2,000?
That's a very good question. $2,000 that they requested was for their HVAC system, is that correct? They were supposed to do the HVAC system with the last money that the town had allocated in last year's budget?
Last year was a humidifier, industrial strength humidifier.
Okay, so they're doing, whatever they wanted to do last year, they weren't able to do because something else had broken. So they had to fix that, so they put that back in there to try to do it this year. And in their letter, and Peggy has it, they specified that they weren't able to do that last year. So in regards to what the town is getting itself, it's more of an assisting them with their object, with their need.
They do own this spot, correct?
I was gonna say, the only big differential for the Historical Society is they purchased a building downtown, committed to the downtown, they pay their taxes.
So they do own the building.
They do
That's
own
all
the
it is,
building.
that's fair enough.
And so that's where they've stepped up where these other organizations have not.
So does council want to do that too?
I'm good with that.
I'm good.
Alright. The last one's gonna be the Allegheny County Fair, and, Josh's recommendation was to match what the county was giving them, and I'll let Josh kind of explain more to that as to why, his recommendation is matching that. if you would like.
Last year, we doubled what the county gave. We gave 10, they gave 5.
Right?
I would like to see that turn back around and them give 10 this year and us get 5.
Good enough.
So if they gonna give 10,
I did not, right, as of right now, that number has not changed, correct? The 5,000 from the county?
As far as we know, it has not changed, and Peggy got
Two
these
on the far
numbers
end's good.
from the county, correct?
I'll still budget.
Two on the far end down here is good.
So we're matching the county.
Matching the county.
I'm speaking for Farron because he's timid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, we got these numbers, Peggy got these numbers after you asked, after Farron asked for them. Peggy went and got these numbers from the county's budget. And, you know, it's, obviously our cuts produce some ripple effects, so we'll see what else happens out of this.
Yeah, budget's not approved yet.
so we're gonna give them 5.
Is that what we
That
That
right?
raises it to 84,000 for appropriation.
every time kid was a
84,000 total.
Okay, so with that, I do want to point out a couple of things. I want to go back to the fee schedule real quick on the Kraus Park. We're probably not going, and I'm gonna reach out to the Arts Council and talk to them about this. We're probably not going to allow people to utilize the stage. And the reason is, there's been some water, flow underneath the stage itself. And the stability and the safeness of that stage becomes an issue. We did reach out to an engineer, see if they would come by and look at what it would cost to stabilize the stage, and just for them to come down here, look at it, and give us our assessment was $1,500. And, it doesn't really take a lot to look at it and realize that the stage is falling down, and we're gonna be better off when I work with the Department of Commerce. We're in the process of
Capital
getting paperwork
projects.
situated, to see this, project. I'm gonna look for funding for a, stage. I think it's a bigger liability for us to allow anyone to use it than it is for anything else at this point in time.
And another reason why we charge fees is to
Yeah.
keep up our infrastructure.
We will, I don't think there's a fee schedule on there for the stage, and we're just gonna put a post that the stage is gonna be off limits due to, its stability itself. And just the back of it, the pillars have slid, and it is slowly sliding backwards, and, we fear it's not gonna sustain it all the way up there.
Well, and it does depend on.
Did you have any questions on any of the fees, the department schedules?
I'm good.
The last question I have is, are we gonna address the signage
Oh, yeah.
before we leave out of here? Because I think if that would, to me, would be in kind of at least a 1-year appropriation, so we could get that done, so we would almost have this budget buttoned down before our June meeting.
So we could, with that said, we would, if council wants to do some assistance on the wayfind signage, I would recommend that you do it as an appropriation request. for the TDA.
Special appropriation.
Yeah, special appropriation request from TDA, they can submit their paperwork, you can talk about it right now and decide how much you would be willing to give. Mr. Mason's still here, and he can submit his paperwork to match what you're willing to give to with these special appropriations, if you want to discuss it. And if you have any questions, Mr. Mason will answer any questions that you have about the wayfinding signage.
Is this gonna be a one-year project? Will it all be finished and completed in one fiscal year?
Should be, phase one